let's talk about a little bit about what Stackbit actually is and why Stackbit is important in the composable world. So I think this sentence kind of like encapsulates what we do, right? So we enable developers essentially to set up digital experiences, and these can be websites, web applications, other digital surfaces, could be like screens within stores and whatnot. And we essentially, empower these developers to build these digital experiences, and they can do it with their choices of everything: tech stack, front end, back end, headless CMS, whatever they want to make, any choice they want to make. And then they hand over these experiences to business users. So these are often marketers and content ops people and product managers and salespeople. And those people can manage it in a no-code environment, right? So what it is, if you think about it, you can call it like essentially a UI for the headless, or a head for the headless. So the headless separation is I think amazing. If you think about the concept that started the whole thing, a developer, think metaphorically, right? A developer wrote a web page, and then in that web page there was a hello world string. And every time that hello world string needed to change, the developer had to make the change. And that is not good for collaboration and moving fast and building this cross-functional team effort. So the whole concept was, well, I'm going to take this string that's hard-coded in the code, and I'm going to put it somewhere else. And that somewhere else will be the place that manages all of my strings and images and whatnot. And all the content will be there. And we'll call it a headless CMS, because it just cares about the content. And this is a tough enough job, how to organize it in the right way and not care about where it's presented, right? It doesn't have the head. And then in the code, you would put in the variable, and now you're writing further code that will take the content, from the headless CMS and put it into the page, and put that page now ready for production and consumption. So that piece was brilliant now, because now you have two separate places where they can be changed independently. You can change things, just change the content, or change the code, or change even both, right? And that way you gain collaboration by making each one of the teams independent, right? So that's how things are. Now, I think the challenge there is that you have to be fairly technical and a little bit understand how the your design system is built. And Matteo will talk about atomic design. I think like this will be a great place to do it, where we essentially are saying that the way you construct your content might now become a little bit of like a hassle to deal with on a day-to-day basis to somebody who's not technical. And editing in the headless CMS is okay, it's easy, but then like you need to see how it actually looks like before you're presenting it and putting it out there. So this is where kind of Stackbit comes in and works with headless CMSs like Dato to be like, okay, content is stored over there. Let's have a unified editing interface that's visual, and you're going to see a demo of it very soon, and that enables like this better collaboration. So if we go to the next slide, I think we have two essentially. So we have we actually have two customer stories. I think, Tiff, can you like stop and start the? I think I probably made like a change.
Yeah, for sure. Give me a sec here.
In the last minute, and then like the.
In the meantime, Dan, while I'm doing that and getting those slides up and running, I just wanted to kind of share a quick story here based on an example, based on what you were just sharing about. I remember working as a software developer for a very large company, and we were working on a large airline company. And, we were working in sprints and heads down in a feature, quite, feeling good when you're getting in that development rhythm. You just don't want anyone to bother you. And I remember so often it would be the content editors or marketing team would Slack me and be like, hey, Tiff, we need, this text change or this image updated like yesterday. And they weren't comfortable going in and doing it. And although it may take just a few minutes, it completely takes you out of your zone and what you are focusing on. And to get back into that zone, that time adds up very quickly. So I just wanted to share that personal story to kind of emphasize what you're saying.
Thank you.
Right, Dan. Let me see here. Perfect. I got it back up now.
Yes. So I think we have one before. If you go on one slide before. So I thought instead of we're going to show a demo and we're going to show how everything works. So I felt like it would be interesting to show customer stories. And Telus is one of these customers who essentially started going into the composable world and had a really amazing setup. They've created their own design system that's atomic design, and then essentially started deploying it and starting getting marketers to work with it. And the problem was that if they found the headless CMS a little bit hard to work in, because you're looking at a bunch of forms and not seeing how things look like in reality, and then you have to generate a preview. It takes time. You go back, you go ahead and change. So in the Lego analogy world is how the pieces look like mostly, right? And you can if even by touch, you can just do it. So you're building something, but then at the end, before putting it on the shelf or whatever, you want to look at it, and then always something will be there that you want to fix. But in a hand, you go fix it, and then you have to kind of you do it still kind of behind the scenes where you don't see the pieces, you just feel them. And then you have to look at it again. So that's the preview process. So they found a lot of success with Stackbit and are just building pages way faster. And the training has gone down of their marketing and business teams from 7 hours to a 5-minute video. So I think that's a really interesting story. And if we go to the next one, we can talk about Takeda, which is one of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the world. They were actually not going into, they were not already on a composable stack. They were moving away from a traditional DXP, which was, in this case, it was Optimizely, what was called Episerver. And their very brilliant team was, wanted to have one unified interface where marketers and all the teams that are now dealing with it, and they have their internal sites on the marketplace and the marketing site itself. So giving each one of these teams the same kind of familiar interface to work with, and behind the scenes they have different data sources and they have a lot of the internal tools. So they too are just moving super fast with a tiny team that powers over 80 experiences out there. So I think with that, I wanted to hand it over to Dato to present, Dato itself. And I think that would talking about atomic design, I think that would also be a great example to hear how do you guys see the success of atomic design and the flexibility in your world. Please take it away.
Sure. I can present a bit DatoCMS. So DatoCMS is a headless CMS, as you have mentioned already. One particular feature that we are very proud of is our user experience. I think it makes and our developer experience as well. And these are, I think, the big selling points of DatoCMS. We try to take some decisions for our users and try to guide people in using our tool in a certain way. So we try to simplify in certain ways and give some guidance. And so, for example, we'll see later a little bit, but how you can navigate through different content models is something that helps editors navigate around, and also we have some features like validations that help, again, editors create always valid content. It's also helpful for developers in reducing what code they need to build, because they know already that we are always going to return data in a certain format. So we try to be helpful there and simplify the workflow for everyone. And then, yeah, we have some other interesting features like structured text fields that help reuse content in different contexts, and not only on the web, for example. And then I think a very powerful GraphQL API, just to name a few. In the context of this webinar, I think it's interesting to mention the atomic design principles that have been mentioned before. So the idea is that you grow your pages from little bits that can be composed in different structures. So you start with the atoms. That could map to the fields, like a text field, an image, for example, and then they grow into molecules, and the molecules could be like a record, a content model, a small content model, or also a block. It's another concept we have in DatoCMS, and these records can be composed again in organisms using links. So you can start from a main record that links to all different organisms, and by doing that you create templates, and these templates can be reused to generate pages. So this is the growing structure that lets you create pages. And all these bits of information can be reused in different contexts, which is very nice, because you can avoid duplicating content around. So each time you need to modify something, you just change it once and it applies everywhere, which is a very powerful concept, but also it can be tricky to control, especially in a headless world, because you change something and then you don't know where it's going to show. So this is something, again, from great powers come great responsibility. and so you never know where you're going to change the content. And this is something that I think Stackbit solves brilliantly. I think that the collaboration between Stackbit and DatoCMS is brilliant, because you get the power to see where the content is shown. You can change it in place, but you still can achieve these complex structures and like the solidity of, for example, our validations, our GraphQL API, all our assets management, all these features that we are offering. So I think that the collaboration of the two is really brilliant.
Cool, thank you, Matteo.
Matteo, you mentioned when you first started speaking, you're very proud of your user interface and how user-friendly it is. I was speaking to our solutions engineer who was working on this demo, and he was raving, and he made sure, he was like, please tell them how user-friendly their API is. So it's very true.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and we're big believers in just in general. What's called in the lingo of like dog fooding, right? So we're always using our own product on our own website. That was hard.
Exactly.
So we're rotating and trying all the tools. So we've used that data ourselves, right? And we found it like really, really useful and really easy to kind of play around with and make sure we're getting the right structure that we want, right? So I think to your point, when you want to have these references and you want to be able to make one change in one place that will reflect everywhere, you can do it. And when you don't, when you want to make localized changes, then you can do that as well. So really props to you guys for building a great product.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So shall we, Tiff, what do you think? Shall we just, I think we've talked a lot. Let's show the demo.
I agree.
Can't wait
Perfect.
for that.
Okay, let's go off camera here and I'll start sharing my screen again.
Awesome.
And as always, Dan and either Matteo, feel free to jump in as I'm going through everything. I love interactive demos. So you can see on screen here, I have a local development site up and running. I made this around a travel agency. Clearly, I think based on this image, I'm craving some sunshine. It's been a lot of rain and snow here in Canada. But in this example here, you can see we have pricing, we have blog, careers, and drop down. So a site that needs to be updated very frequently, also 2 pages added. It's very dynamic. Now, as I mentioned, this site is running locally. However, if you have seen a local development site running before, you can definitely attest to this is not how they typically look. There's a lot more features added in here, thanks to Stackbit, which I'll dive into in a second. But first, I want to talk about exactly where this content is coming from, which is DatoCMS. So let me go in here. You can see in Dato, it's a very, as Matteo was mentioning, very user-friendly. I'm in page right now, and I have one page at the moment, which is homepage. And if I click inside of it, you can see here we have our umbrella corporation, we have some text, and we also have that image, which is the one I was referring to. So right now we have one page, but the first thing I want to share with you is how simple it is to create new pages. And Stackbit enables us to do this in a few different ways. And I really wanted to share this with you first because it's one of the biggest challenges out of many that marketers and content editors are always voicing is around they want to be able to create pages quickly, not only update them, but create them quickly. And there are a few ways to do this. One of my favorite ways right now that I'm going to share with you is if we go into page here, and then we go into save as a preset, you can actually save the entire page as a preset. So what this will allow you to do, or your marketers or content editors to do, is be able to save a page and then reuse it in other places, and then they can modify the existing, that new page, whether it be text or content. So let's make this a team page, and let's put in the team category. Perfect. Save here. Okay, so now I have saved this entire page as a preset. So if I go into my drop-down, I can simply go add new page. And you can see here, we have the page I just saved. Go add to site, and let's call this team page. Perfect. All right, give it a sec here. And then what this will do is it will add a new page, a new slug with team. And we can simply, it's exactly the same. I'm having a little bit of slow internet here. Give me a moment. Of course, it works, the internet works great before a demo, and then it decides to slow down right during it. Give me a moment here.
Yeah, I think it's also...
also.
I find it hard whenever there's like a Zoom and or anything else, it tends to have more issues. Plus the demo. So if it's a demo, it has to go. So I see it was we just had a duplicate, I assume.
Exactly. Perfect. All right. So as you can see here, that team page has been created. It looks exactly the same as the home page, but now what we can do is go ahead and utilize how this content is structured and the UI and create a new one. So let's go about us. And you can see here I'm editing on the glass. So this is super helpful for your marketers to be able to see right as they are editing or creating content what this will look like. And let's go, we help plan the best vacation possible. Okay, perfect. Now before I go on here, I'm going to go back into Dato. And you can see here, oh yeah, that was me pressing the buttons twice, but we have the team page here. So that's great. We have team page, and you can see subtitle.
The other one, yes.
Sorry, Matteo?
I think it's the other one. This is the slide.
Perfect.
This slide,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yes.
Perfect. Best vacation possible. All right. So as you can see, it was very straightforward to add a new page. And you can think about when we were talking earlier, when Dan was sharing some customer stories with Telus and with Takeda, when you were creating so many pages, how important it is to be able to do this on the fly so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I shared with you about page presets. I want to go down a little bit. And we have our travel agents down here. Right now, it's just one. We have Drake. Let's save Drake, actually, as a preset.
I think so. The presentation is. I still see the Dato interface. Is that? Do you guys see?
Oh, do you?
No. It's you, Dan. It's
just me. Okay.
I see. Yeah.
Never mind. So then forget about me. Before you go on, I wanted to highlight something about what you showed, and I think this is so making sure everybody is aware. So what happened, right, is like we made changes in essentially in context, visually. And I think one of the things that you can also show, Tiff, is like if you change the aspect ratio, right, you can go to a mobile view, for example. And that mobile view is not just a preview. You can actually make changes while in mobile view. So, a lot of companies are doing mobile first websites, obviously, because a lot of the consumption is just done on mobile. So I think that's like a brilliant use case of like being able to change the presentation on the go and see how it is and work in it.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm not sure, Dan, if you can see my. Can you see?
I cannot, but I trust that you're showing the right thing.
All right. You know what? Maybe here, because I feel like it's going to be hard for you to contribute if you can't see what's going on. I'm going to quickly unshare my screen and then restart. The classic.
Yeah, I think it's probably on my end. While you restart, I'll also say, so the other thing that I think is really, now I see it. Thank you. And the really impactful thing here is that the change in data was instantaneous, right? We're integrating directly. There's no trying to do any kind of manipulation on the content or cache it or do anything like that. This is purely, fully synced, bidirectional, as you're probably going to show. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, actually, let's show speaking of bidirectional, let's show this. So right now we help plan the best vacation possible to help you relax. So you can see here that is us first editing the content right in Stackbit. And then if we go back into DatoCMS, a little page
it was there already.
Yeah. Perfect. There we go. Yes. And help you relax. Now we can do this the opposite way as well. So we help you plan the best vacation possible, help you relax. Let's just take that back out and put some exclamation marks there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and save this. Record successfully updated. And if we go back here, you can see it's instantaneous. It's two-way sync happening immediately. So that's super powerful too when you start thinking about a larger team when they are working in both places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think definitely like some people and some tasks are better suited to work essentially in the CMS itself, and some right here, right? I think a lot of the developers would just go ahead and prefer to make changes and kind of like work within the headless CMS, and then marketers would probably, for most things, would prefer this interface.
Exactly, but they're always in sync, which is huge. So we have here this person, Drake, and I'm going to go ahead and save this card. So let's go here, save as preset, because you can imagine as this team continues to build out, if you want to reuse components throughout your website or on the exact page, we can save this. So let's go team member.
And when we're saving, just to kind of give the listeners a little bit of an understanding what happens. This is content, right? There's a content model that represents the travel agent, and it's populated now. The name field, right, is populated. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So this is the name field is populated by a name, and then there's an image, and all these things are in the model, right? So the preset, right, the saved preset, essentially it takes a snapshot of the visual thing as you've seen, but it also takes a snapshot of the values of the content model, right? So this is, and it then helps you instead of like recreating this object again, right? And sometimes I think especially like in atomic design, you don't have like everything is flexible, right? You have like rows and columns, and a column might have more rows, and then this row might have a text field, and the other row might have a button. So if you have to recreate everything from scratch, it's a bit harder. But with this, you're kind of getting you're essentially building new components, if you will, that you can reuse. Although you're not building new components, all you're doing is like arranging your presets in a certain way.
Exactly. Perfect. So to kind of show that, let's go add people here. Let's go existing, because as I just showed in Data, we have these 3 individuals already existing here. Let's add Sarah. And then we'll see here, we now have, in a matter of seconds, we now have Sarah. We can also edit her individually if we wanted to update her name, her title, or bio. And then I also wanted to share too that going back to, say, Drake, for example, you can see here we have this icon. And if we click on it, you can see where else this piece of content is being used in the site. And once again, you can imagine how powerful this is if it's a piece of content that's being used in hundreds or tons and tons of different pages. So you can easily see it. And then you can also click on for the shortcut to take you to where else it's being used. So in the example of Sarah, you'll see there's no icon here because this is the first time we are using her. Also, too, while I'm highlighting on this person card here, you can see we can easily click on a little shortcut to Dato. And it will take us right to this person, Sarah T. And we can just change this here. Let's just go, we'll make her the founder. Perfect. And we can see it updated right away. So that's another really interesting example around component presets. And then, Dan, I'm not sure if there's anything else around that you want to say. I think I heard you, or maybe.
I think it's fine if I think, yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, perfect. No, I thought I heard you. The other thing I wanted to really highlight here is theme style. So I really love this. I think it's really interesting how you want to, of course, marketers want to keep the website consistent and have a cohesive theme, and that's where theme style comes in. So it's very easy to reference. You can see here, this is the theme style that I have chosen, but this can easily be updated. I'm not going to update it at the moment, but you can easily update it based on different preferences, and then that will be reflected throughout the site. All right, let me close this.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And then, for example, if we wanted to add a new section, let's go ahead. I have a carousel down here, which I'll get to, but let's say we want to add a generic section. So what this will do is we'll create a section that we can go ahead and add in a title, text, subtitle. Let's go. Let's call this Planning Your Best Vacation. I'm going to make everyone who's watching this want to go on a vacation. Perfect. All right. And then let's just do some text down here. Where would you like to go today? All right. There we go. You can see it was updated immediately. And then also, too, going down to share a little bit about the carousel section. If we go into edit here, you can see here right now I have 3 different items, but you can keep on adding more. We could also change the arrangement, which is really interesting, from different kind of styling to give you options as well. And then we can also go into colors. So let's do dark background here. Perfect. And you can see the styling. And this is great too. I want to highlight because what can really be in place is guardrails. So your design team can set up guardrails. So when your marketing team is making these changes, they don't have to go back and forth with the design team wondering, is this color acceptable? Is this style all right? They already know it is. And in turn, making them be able to work 10 times faster. Yeah, so that is what I had to demo today. I could keep on going, and I just want to highlight that There is so much with this that, I mean, if we had another hour, even I could keep on going into the amount of personalization you can do. I'll give you one quick example here is around analytic overlays. So I'll share a link down below and more information about this. And maybe Dan, if you want to touch on any of this as well. But one thing that our developer experience team has worked on a lot, actually, he implemented that when marketers are going to their pages, they can see analytics right on the page. And this enables them to really understand what components are working, what UI is working, what maybe isn't getting clicked through a lot. And the personalization you can really continue to hone in on.
Yeah, I think the what you're alluding to is that now I think marketing and all the business teams are getting way more sophisticated. So the content that appears on the website is just like part of the things that they need when they edit, right? So they need to obviously change that, and that's what ends up being served to the end customers and the end visitors. But they're making these decisions based on analytics, for example, and other insights that they might have. So Stackbit helps there, just both enabling them to edit the actual content, but also allowing them to do these overlays or add any data that they might need in development time, right? So this might be analytics, it might be like an internal guide on how to write content, etc. So it's all about like customizability for us, right? The same way we integrate with Dato in like the most native way. So like developers don't have to pull data from Dato in any specific way that's unique to Stackbit, right? So I think that's very, very important to stress out. You can use and should use the APIs and the user experience that Dato gives you. That's why you probably picked Dato, because you loved how everything works. And adding like all that you've shown here, right? I think like everybody's excited about it. I think we're excited about it. Dato's excited about it. I think that the important thing is that you can achieve all of this with one configuration file, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't add any vendor lock-in. You can take out that file easily. As you can see, even while Stackbit is enabled, you can still continue editing in Dato if this is what you prefer. And this is just like with that one configuration file, you just have it like say a bunch of very basic things. It's like, hey, here is the front-end framework I'm using. Here is the CMS that I'm using. Here are my API keys. So we enable that to happen. By the way, you have to have a Dato account as well to work with Stackbit. So you authenticate your account with Dato with Stackbit, and then you're able to make these changes. And this, to I think Matteo's point, is also respects all the validations and all the other things and all the roles that you have and the audit trail and everything that exists within Dato. So you have all of those, and all you need to do is like have that one config file. As you've shown, like this, like the side panel that shows you all the elements on the screen. You just have to like specify what consists of a page, right? You have like multiple pieces of content, right? That like some of them are pages, most of them are not pages. So just to enable us to bring everything in context, we're saying, hey, a post is a page. Great. So now we can assemble essentially like on the left side and show all the things that consist and appear on that page. And then, so you can already then like edit on this like live preview. And if you wanted those highlights that you're showing, that is optional. You don't have to have it. If you do want, it's like very, very, very simple HTML attributes that don't even make it to production. So, and again, super optional. So this, if you have a setup that already uses any front-end framework that you've chosen, Next.js, Gatsby, Angular, I don't know, anything at all, and then pulls data from Dato, you can get this new visual editing super easily, right? Our customers are onboarding in, sometimes minutes. So this is, I think this is like one of the last things that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. That's a really good point too. And really focusing on, you can decide how much customization you want. You mentioned that right now as you can see, you can edit on the glass we enabled it for a lot of flexibility for the content editors, but maybe in some cases you want less. And we're not deciding that. We're enabling you to make those decisions on how much flexibility and whatnot, but we're providing you the tools to do so. Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. You know what? On that note, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's go into some Q&A here. One sec.
It's amazing. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
I would add before the Q&A, I wish to say I'm super excited of this because coming from a long time agency experience, and in especially in the last few years when we started working with the design systems and feedback components everywhere. And we've been dreaming of having, and with Dato, you can make starter projects, and you can make auto migrations, so you can repeat and you can create, all this kind of magic that we know it very well. So we know from the design system point of view, but this is the missing part. The missing piece, and I think it's fantastic. This is a game changer for especially for agencies and for developers who wants to give the best experience to the editors. They are the final user of our products, and somehow, and really, I have thousands of questions for you because I can't wait to see where it goes. I can integrate everything, and but it's exciting, definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matteo. Well, you know what? At the moment, there's no questions in the chat, so we can keep this conversation going for another few minutes. And if any questions come up, then I'll call them out.
Yeah, I have one. I think it's one. Also, I think. I already know the answer, but I would be interested to hear your perspective on using multiple content sources, like for example for migration, to migrate an existing project and using different platforms, so migrating, for example, to DatoCMS or from DatoCMS to something else. Also to go back to the Lego metaphor and really show that is possible for real.
Yeah, I think Matteo, that's exactly the right way to actually think about it, because I think a lot of the interest that we're seeing from customers, and this is not just from customers, but when talking to analysts as well, is coming up, where these migrations are a lot of times they're very painful, right? So let's say somebody's on a traditional digital experience platform, and now they want to move over to Dato, right? So it's usually going to be like a pretty major project when now they have to think, okay, we have thousands of pages. We need to create all the content models, migrate all the content, take us months to do all the transition. Yes, transition. And then what ends up happening is and I've done this from the customer side multiple times, well, I need to change on the website right now. Well, but we're transitioning. So oh no, but I need it today. Okay, so we're going to make a change in the old system, and now it's out of sync, and things are hard. So I think the benefit here is that we can essentially say, no problem. Because Stackbit integrates with multiple content sources, you can say, okay, cool. You have your old content in some other system, right? Excellent. If that system has structured content and has an API, we have an open source content interface that essentially is easy to implement. And once you do that, that source, which we might already have and you don't have to build, can be edited within Stackbit. And then what happens is that the marketing folks and business folks, they still see one interface, right? They don't necessarily care where it syncs back to, right? So they're typing, they're changing a title, and one day it's still changing in the old system, and then the next day it's now all of a sudden changing in the new system. So, I think that makes a rolling migration much easier and much more palatable. To do. Furthermore, I think it does. I think there are also some times when we've seen customers that are using, most of the content comes from a headless CMS, but then they want to put in data from their own server because they have users and they want to create pages for them or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's very hard. Like, why would I now I have to sync and take my users' data, put them in a headless CMS? It's just like a lot of back and forth. Every piece of content should reside where it should, like in its natural place. So I think that is really a good way to say, sure, so I can write this interface to my Postgres or MongoDB or whatever it is, and my data can still be there. I don't have to guess where it is stored and make the change, right? So I think that makes sense. And something else that I'm excited about is the same process that we talked about before of like taking the content out and separating it so it can change independently can be done for design as well. So we have an example. If you go to Stackbit/Figma, we have an example where we're doing the same process for Figma. So instead of like taking the approach of like, okay, I have Figma here and I'm going to generate a set of machine written code that people usually don't like and has a lot of flaws. I would just say, let's say instead of like a developer getting the design from a designer and saying like, okay, and now I'm going to like hard code essentially the button and the styles and the color and the curvature or whatever in code, I will say just, well, no, like the rounded corners, like the radius would be a parameter. And that parameter pulls data directly from Figma, right? And that's because Figma is it's not just like a Photoshop. So it's like it's tokenized. You can have a very organized file, and changes that you make there are reflected back into the preview through Stackbit and then onto the actual site. So it's all about this concept of, things should change differently, and each editor should edit wherever they are comfortable with.
And how is the development experience? Because this is from the editor and the designer, so it's perfect. Now I can manage Block. And what about the development experience?
So the development experience, you really don't have to do anything that is specific to Stackbit, right? It's like essentially any one of your customers that is already using, let's say a Next.js and a DatoCMS setup, they will just add that one config file. And that one config file is enough to allow us to read the content model automatically. You don't have to redefine it in Stackbit. We are fully in sync with both the content and the content schema and content models in Dato. So
as a developer, I can make my own components in the way I wish.
Exactly.
And
no restrictions whatsoever. We're really, I think, like a lot of the other solutions in this space, that are kind of similar. They either don't. If they could give you like a little bit of like an initial set of components, but whenever you write components, you have to write them in a certain way so you can register them. So then like your code is no longer portable. It's usually now dependent on an SDK for another system. And we are big believers that that shouldn't happen. We respect your choices, and we don't want to add more choices to your choices as a developer. So there's nothing in particular that you have to do to enable Stackbit other than that config file and those optional annotations. Now, we also allow you to customize the actual UI, right? So I think like the analytics overview and like enabling to add more buttons to the actual UI, enabling to say what happens on publish, right? Because maybe you have your own processes for publishing. It's not just about, publishing the content. Maybe you need to run a PR as well and do some lint and do other processes that build it. On build, you can even like do something else. You can be like, hey, I don't create a web page. I actually want to create an email. So this page that I'm creating on publish will take all of this and feed it into a mechanism like MailChimp or something else to enable to send it onwards.
Amazing.
Cool. This was such an amazing hour. It passed by so fast. I'm very excited about this, and I think whoever wants to know more about this and see, experience this firsthand, I think we can approach either ask us or you guys. So emails are pretty easy. I think I'm Dan at Stackbit, Tiff at Stackbit. I guess like Mateos, you are.
People can reach out at support at DatoCMS. So
Perfect.
there are multiple people responding, but we read them all. So
fantastic. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you very much for the host.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
And
it was brilliant.
Have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.